My name is Christine Zhang, and I'm an associate based in Hong Kong. I joined PAG in July 2018 and was previously an analyst at Deutsche Bank in New York. I also role on the crew team for Duke. We are going to present an interview my colleague Sid conducted with our new CEO for Craveable Brands, which highlights how our Australian restaurant business responded quickly to the challenges caused by COVID-19.
Well, hello everyone. We're joined today by Karen Bosick, Group CEO of Craveable Brands, our Australian chicken-focused quick service restaurant chain. Karen joins us today to talk about how she and her team have navigated these unprecedented times and taken the business forward. So Karen, perhaps we could start with, when did COVID first hit Australia and how did people react?
Thanks, Sid, and thanks for that introduction. Yeah, I mean, really early March we could see this sort of happening overseas, and sort of by the time the middle of March came about, we could see the infection rates starting to rise here, and we knew that this had become real in our climate. But thankfully, at a federal and state level, our governments responded really quickly, and that looked like people telling people to stay home and starting to shut down businesses. But what of course that also meant was that we had people starting to panic and a lot of confusion and fear, and that played out with panic buying, people starting to not go out anymore, for example, and people really starting to worry about their livelihoods. And from a Craveable Brands perspective as well, we were really worried, would we be able to continue to trade? But thankfully for us, the government recognised the really important role that we play in feeding Australia, and knew that if we were to close, they wondered how supermarkets would cope, but also it had knock-on impacts for the supply chain up. So even from those early days, we were still able to do drive-through and delivery and takeaway and operate out of our shop fronts, but we just couldn't do any dine-in. But we were just so grateful to be able to continue to trade during that period.
So how did you sort out your and your team's priorities during this period, and what were the key actions you took?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, customer and team safety was the number one priority. So we had to very quickly make our processes adapt to respond to that, to ensure that our customers and our team would be safe. Our next priority was really about our franchisees, because it meant different things for them. Some of them were doing well and some were not doing so well. So we really focused on ensuring that we had a good pathway to address any financial uncertainty. Other areas that we provided support is we really needed to make sure that they had the right property, plant and equipment to be able to function in this environment. So things like masks, gloves, sanitizer, things that particularly those first and last ones that we'd never really had to bother with before in our business. And if I sort of step out of supporting our franchise partners and put the Craveable hat on, for us, we really had to make all those important decisions that most businesses had to make over that period. You know, we had to stare down the face of standing some people down, reducing hours, for example, but really preserving cash as well. Cash was king most certainly through this period, because the more we did that, it gave us optionality to ride out whatever was coming. We didn't know what was coming at that point in time. So again, like most businesses, really put the handbrake on, so to speak, on discretionary cost and CapEx, in addition to those key people decisions we made during that period.
When did the situation start to bottom out in your mind?
Yeah, so for us, relatively from mid-March to mid-April was pretty awful. But after about the middle of April, each week things just got a little bit better and a little bit better. And from May onwards, in fact, right up until this day today, our business is still in substantial like-for-like growth. And also, we've still had throughout this period, at our worst case, we had around 60 sites that were not trading during that period. That's down around at about 40 sites now. But the sum of the parts with those that have been able to trade have done an excellent job and have been very robust, has more than offset that challenging dynamic of Victoria and the sites that have been closed. And that's largely because our formats, particularly our drive-through, shop front and delivery channels, have just been so resilient. They've been real powerhouses for us during this period. And as a result, in the last 3 to 4 months, we've done very well.
That's very good to hear, Karen. And I suppose looking back at this period that we've all lived through, was there anything that surprised you?
Probably the speed of how quickly things changed in this environment probably surprised us. And with that pace of change, I think the other thing that surprised us was just how complex things became so quickly. So as federal governments and state governments really tried to work through this situation, we found ourselves at times literally working around the clock, hour by hour, managing situations across 6 or 7 different markets. So that was very unusual for us. On the upside though, the really surprising thing was just how amazing our team was in responding to that challenge. You know, there were people there that absolutely rose to that challenge and worked around the clock to make sure that our business could continue to trade and our team was safe and felt they had what they needed to do that. The final thing I would say is the response from customers. So it has been such a privilege over this period of time to continue to serve the customers that have come to us over this period. We've had customers come to us, I would say, for the first time ever, or the first time in a long time. And as I said, it's been such an opportunity and an honour to have, I guess, provided them with a convenient solution or bring a bit of joy to what's been a pretty awful situation for a lot of people and somehow made their lives a little bit easier over this period. So that's been a real gift for us and we've not looked at that lightly.
Understood. And as you look ahead now, do you think COVID has created any opportunities for the business and how is it positioned going forward?
Yes, I do think there have been opportunities created. We've all read about it, talked about it, but there's consumer behaviour here that has accelerated exponentially over this period. Digital and convenience adoption. People turning to brands that they trust over this period of time and looking for brands that can engage and connect with them in a meaningful way at a time that's been difficult for many people. So I think those types of trends are really important going forward. Our business, as I said, runs a number of formats. We have a drive-through format, a shop front, and a food court environment, and all of those shops actually trade delivery as well. But our delivery sales in particular have exponentially grown over this period. In fact, they've nearly doubled since the start of February, which is quite astonishing. And so we've really ridden that wave very, very hard. We've got our own delivery platform in Red Rooster, and we've also worked closely with our aggregator partners to focus on delivery going forward and make sure we really maximise that opportunity. And we talk about that in terms of convenience leadership, and we see that as a really important strategic pillar going forward. The other things that are important are new sites. So, for example, we have seen some great opportunities that have come around from sites that people no longer want, or potentially a landlord now has a greater appetite to deal and negotiate with us, which is fantastic because network expansion is one of our other strategic pillars. And we've also seen a lot of opportunities, as you would know, on the M&A side start to surface. So we want to look at those carefully, but we also want to consider what might be the right things going forward. We've learned during this crisis that our model and our format is very, very resilient, and customers have really resonated with that offer going forward, or I should say where we've been and also going forward. So that places us very, very well. We also play at the value end. So we're not a premium priced product, and that holds us very well in a recessionary environment. I spoke a little bit before about convenience leadership. I think that's just accelerated our thinking around that. And when I put all of that together, I kind of say, and you're across our strategy, but focusing on things like customer experience, expanding our network, convenience leadership are absolutely the right places for us to play going forward, as well as being opportunistic around M&A and eventually international when we can look at those markets a little bit more closely. All of those things just say to me that the type of model and the brands that we have and could have tomorrow sit very well for the environment we're in now, but also the environment we might enter in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you. My pleasure.